Today's story is about a boy whose own father locks him inside an animal cage just to watch him suffer. He was deprived of food and water and tortured day after day. This merciless father kept telling his son that staying in the cage was God's punishment for his sins. But in reality, the man was simply using religion as an excuse to unleash his cruelty. Now the question is, will this child ever escape from his brutal father? To find out, keep watching this psychological mystery thriller named DogMan. The story begins with a man named Douglas, stopped at a police checkpoint while transporting a large group of dogs. Douglas was severely injured, looking as if he had been beaten badly by a gang. Despite intense questioning, nothing about his case made sense to anyone. So late that night, the matter was handed over to Dr. Evelyn, a psychiatrist. Evelyn meets Douglas and asks him where he was taking all those dogs. Douglas replies, "These dogs are my family. Wherever I go, they follow. Even if I try to avoid them, they're always there." She then asks who caused such horrific injuries. Douglas knows that if he shares only pieces of the truth, she'll think he's insane like everyone else. So he starts from the very beginning, his childhood. Douglas explains that his father was a cruel, heartless man. When Douglas was just 9 years old, he saw his father forcing their pet dogs to fight each other. The man would starve them for days so that they'd kill for even a grain of food, all for his twisted entertainment. Douglas's brother was exactly like their father, showing no trace of humanity. But Douglas was different. He loved animals, and the dogs adored him in return. One day, he secretly fed the starving dogs. Naturally, the dogs stopped fighting, which confused his father. But soon his brother saw him sharing his own food with them and reported it. That night during dinner, his father asked if he had fed the dogs. Terrified, Douglas told the truth. Immediately, his father locked him inside the same animal cage and declared, "From now on, these animals are your family and this cage is your home." The man began venting his frustrations through the suffering of a 9-year-old child. Torturing Douglas became his daily entertainment. Douglas's mother wanted to save him, but she was powerless. And one day, Douglas witnessed her running away, abandoning the house. Douglas tells Evelyn he never even saw a school building. He learned to read and write by studying magazines thrown into the cage. Evelyn is shocked to learn he remained inside that cage for years, so many that he couldn't keep count. His father blamed him for his mother leaving, and the torture only worsened. His brother said to him, "You are God's lost sheep. Pray, because the punishment for your sins is death." Evelyn asks how he ever escaped the cage. Douglas explains that one day, a female dog gave birth to puppies. He hid them from his father and brother. But eventually his brothers saw the puppies nursing and immediately told their father. The father wanted to kill the puppies, but Douglas stood in front of them. Even after being told repeatedly to move, he refused. His father then shot him. The bullet struck Douglas's hand, severing one of his fingers. Douglas collapsed, bleeding, but instead of helping him, his brother simply prayed for his sins and left, giving him a handkerchief. After living with dogs for so many years, Douglas had learned how to communicate with them. He showed one dog a picture of a police car and instructed it, "Take my severed finger to that car. Bring them here." The dog miraculously found the police, who followed it back to the house. Seeing the boy locked in a cage, they immediately called an ambulance and arrested the father and brother. Douglas tells Evelyn that it was the happiest day of his life, yet it would have been even better if a fragment of that gunshot hadn't ricocheted into his spine. Because of that, he was permanently paralyzed. Doctors told him that his bone marrow was deteriorating and his life would be far shorter than average. His father received 20 years in prison and his brother 12. But the man who caged others couldn't handle being caged himself. Douglas's father committed suicide after just 2 years. His brother was released early for good behavior after 8 years. But he didn't live long, because the dogs Douglas had raised formed a pack and attacked him the moment he stepped out. His death was slow and painful, perhaps deserved. Evelyn then asks, "Who were you running from that night? Who did this to you?" A flashback shows a young man visiting Douglas. He tells Douglas about a new gangster extorting vulnerable people for protection money. "At first we managed, but now he increases the amount every week. My aunt even sold her belongings out of fear. But we can't pay anymore, and if we don't, his men will hurt us." Douglas says, "Don't panic, I'll take care of it." He sends the boy home. The next day, we see the extortionist mafia boss. Douglas decides to teach him a lesson. At Douglas's signal, a dog enters the boss's bar carrying a phone, followed by another dog with powerful jaws. The smaller dog places the phone on the table. As the boss picks it up, the second dog clamps down on his private parts. Now the boss is at Douglas's mercy. Douglas warns him, "Extort money from whoever you want, but not from that laundry woman." He threatens that if the boss refuses, his dog will tear him apart. Terrified, the boss agrees, promising his men will never trouble her again. Douglas spares his life, but unintentionally creates a new enemy. Evelyn then asks about his time in the care home. Douglas replies, "I was taken from one cage and placed in another. There were kids like me, but they were broken, beaten by life. They couldn't unite. They just survived." Evelyn asks if he ever fell in love. Douglas hesitates, then admits, "Yes. There was a woman named Salma, older than me. She taught me makeup, told me Shakespeare stories. With her, I felt truly alive. I became who I wanted to be." But Douglas never confessed his feelings. One day, Salma left after receiving acting offers. Douglas collected every article about her. He completed his studies and dreamed of telling her everything. He bought an expensive ticket to watch her performance. He applauded loudly, but due to his disability, he couldn't reach her afterward. A bodyguard informed Salma that a big fan wanted to meet her. When Douglas appeared, Salma immediately recognized him and was genuinely happy. Douglas gave her a handmade book. But before he could speak further, a man arrived, Salma's future husband. She was pregnant with his child. Seeing her with someone else shattered Douglas. He realized people only pity him. No one truly loves someone like him. Why would a shining star like Salma love a disabled man? Heartbroken, he screamed in frustration. His dogs ran to him from their cages and sat beside him. At that moment, he understood only his animals loved him unconditionally. He changed that day, losing himself completely. The next day, Douglas learned the government was destroying his dog shelter due to lack of funds. He begged them not to, but the order was final. Eventually, Douglas fled with his dogs and moved into an abandoned building, his new home. He never saw Salma again. She had 2 children and quit acting, which turned out to be a huge mistake. Her husband became an alcoholic, and her stardom faded away. Douglas tried desperately to find a job, but no one hired him due to his disability. He realized the world doesn't pity you when money is involved. While searching for work, he stumbled into an LGBTQ bar where performers dressed in makeup. Thanks to Salma, Douglas knew how to perform. But the showrunner dismissed him, saying the audience didn't want to watch a disabled performer. Douglas stood up and proved he could perform. Seeing this, the other performers begged the showrunner to give him a chance. Douglas got ready for his performance. Before going on stage, he told the girls, "I can't stand for long. When my legs shake, hold me." The moment Douglas began singing, everyone was moved. He sang so beautifully that the showrunner had tears in his eyes. Douglas barely managed to stay on his feet but won everyone's hearts. From then on, he performed every Friday and slowly created an identity. Because his dogs obeyed him flawlessly, he began stealing with their help. Every night his dogs sneaked into wealthy homes and stole valuables. Theft cases rose rapidly. A police officer eventually noticed Douglas in several CCTV recordings. Since Douglas was disabled, finding him wasn't difficult. The officer's suspicion grew stronger when he saw Douglas performing on stage wearing stolen jewelry. He followed Douglas home and demanded a share of the loot. Douglas didn't care about money and gave him everything. But before leaving, the officer mocked him as a crazy cripple. Enraged, Douglas commanded his dogs to tear the officer apart. Douglas admitted this murder to Evelyn without hesitation. He said he never wanted to kill again, but something unexpected happened. The same mafia boss, seeking revenge, broke into his home. He killed a boy there and came after Douglas. When Douglas heard gunshots, he told his dogs to hide. His house was full of traps. Douglas eliminated several of the boss's men, but the boss shot him with a machine gun. Douglas reminded him of their deal, but the boss believed Douglas was Satan incarnate. As he aimed to kill him, his gun ran out of bullets. Douglas said, "Looks like even your God abandoned you today." His dogs then attacked and killed the boss. The police arrived soon after and found multiple corpses. Douglas was the only survivor, so he was taken for questioning. He knew no one would care for his dogs if he died, so he tried to escape with them. But fate caught up and he was arrested. He told Evelyn his entire story. She asked why he shared all of it with her. Douglas answered, "Because we share the same pain. I felt it the moment I saw you." Evelyn promised to help legally, but Douglas said she had already done enough. He believed he would have to pay the final price to stay with his family. After Evelyn left, Douglas's dogs gathered outside the station. They attacked and freed him. Douglas struggled to his feet and made his way to a church. He said to God, "I have confessed all my sins. Now give me justice." Then he collapsed, surrounded by his loyal dogs, the only ones who ever truly loved him. Douglas blamed God for the horrors he endured. He took his final breath hoping for liberation at last. Meanwhile, one of his dogs went to Evelyn's home. Her abusive ex-husband used to torment her, and after Douglas's death, his dogs would protect Evelyn and her daughter, just as they always protected him. And with that, the movie ends here. I hope you liked the story.